Alright guys, it has now been a few weeks since Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has released, and I think this is a great game to compare with Avowed if we're just looking at total numbers of players currently playing the game, milestones reached, numbers of copies sold, because again, these are two games in the same vein. No, one is obviously fantasy and one's more based on, 15th century Bohemia, but they are both RPGs releasing at the same time of the year, in the same month in fact, so I think that they are a very great a head-to-head comparison to look at just general numbers of people playing these games, right? So Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Controversy aside, there's been some very controversial stuff, rightfully so. People have held on to their money, closed their wallets to this game. People feel like they don't trust Warhorse Studio or Daniel Vavra. I totally understand that, and again, more power to you if that's the way you feel. And despite the controversy, the game has still topped 2 million sales across all platforms, all consoles. The game is doing fantastic. Allegedly, the game only cost $41 million. I'm going to guess it's probably closer to 50 or 60 million. That being said, it's already made its money back, and they are making profit like crazy at this point. So, love them or hate them, Warhorse put out a fantastic game for the most part. Obviously, there's some controversial parts to the game itself that has appealed to the vast majority of gamers, not the woke or the anti-woke, just gamers across the board, right? And you can see that even right now, on a Tuesday night, the game still has 77,000, almost 78,000 people playing it, still going strong. Obviously, these numbers will dwindle as time goes on and as more people complete the game and move on, but you can imagine this player count of steady, concurrent players probably won't dip below 20 or 30,000 for several years going forward due to the increased number of sales that they will likely have in the future. Now you have to compare that with how the media is covering for a game like Avowed, a game that I have watched several content creators, several streamers play. I've heard a lot of different opinions about it. When you remove the shills from the picture and just talk to people who have played the game for themselves, the game is painfully mid. It is okay. It's nothing amazing. It's not going to wow anybody. It is just a basic fantasy RPG from 10, 15 years ago, right? But then you see these articles from Games Radar Plus trying to compare this to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, saying, Avowed has achieved something even Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 couldn't. It made me fall in love with the most boring weapon in RPGs. Maybe you're just not somebody who plays RPGs. And I believe he's talking about a mace in this game. I don't know. I think the maces and the hammers in Kingdom Come Deliverance, both 1 and 2, are pretty badass. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Then you see, of course, PC Gamer saying, Avowed is best enjoyed if you ignore the frame rate. Maybe we should do this more often. Getting absolutely destroyed in the comments, like, yeah, this will definitely help with Avowed sales. Yeah, F right off. Optimization is important. Your mom's low frame rates during childbirth cut your oxygen supply. Oh my god, that's brutal. If you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes journalism. I think the F not man make a better optimized game, maybe. You can no longer call yourself PC gaming. If this isn't the definition of shilling, I don't know what it is, but it gets better because more and more shills are coming out of the woodwork. Just as you'd expect from Kotaku 13 hours ago, Mass Effect fans are freaking out about Avowed's sexy fishman companion. Because this is the same guy who did a character in Mass Effect, the same voice actor, and again, Mass Effect is a very well-loved and storied franchise, so I'm not trying to throw any shade at Mass Effect. But people apparently are wanting a romance option with this hideous fish guy because he has the same voice actor as this character from Mass Effect. And of course, Kotaku is trying to highlight this and push the idea that we need to have romance options in these games. And guys, I've said it many, many times. Romance options in games, especially RPGs, are fine. I just generally don't pursue them. It's not something I care about. But you see all these shills going crazy about how much they just love this guy. This one here, Kayla Elizabeth, somebody who I know for a fact I've seen Norway talk about being a massive shill for not just Obsidian, but other companies as well, like the freaking Dragon Age of Elgard. They were all over that game. Kai is literally Fish Garrus Vicarian. I love him. He's charming and flirtatious, and it's a crime we can't romance him. He's a freaking fish, lady. These are the people who did it with the bear on Baldur's Gate 3. This Jamie Moran, I know that he's a massive shill. I've definitely seen him pushing for this game extremely hard, making very, very simple things seem like they're, somehow recreating the wheel. Old Man Grim says, oh, look, the Access Media shills got their payoffs for their glowing Avowed reviews. I'm shocked, I say. Well, not that shocked. And of course, it's Khalif Adams and Paris, who both got their Legendary Edition, only has the digital code in the steel box, mind you. There's no physical disc in here, but it's got a mask or something, so that's cool, right? Kilted Cajun points out that even this guy, Very AFK, saying congrats to Obsidian for making Avowed such a great success on Steam, showing it at #1. Might be being a little proactive here, a little too quick to say that it's a massive success. And of course, Kilted Cajun has been very careful to say we cannot judge anything by the current numbers today because we're just starting with release day #1. You got to wait till you get to the weekend, till the actual the peak numbers kick in. And he is right. We're not going to know for sure if this game is going to be a flop until we get closer to the weekend. However, I'm going to show you guys something that I think kind of counters that argument a little bit. Not to push back too hard on Kilted Cajun because he is correct. He says calling it #1 on Steam on a Tuesday is the same sort of flex as looking at the concurrent players on a Tuesday and calling it a failure. The general populace don't buy and play video games during the week. I'll wait till Monday before I bury this one. And I think that's a fair assessment to take. I think like Kilted Cajun has been a very balanced individual in a lot of this coverage that we've talked about certain games. But here's what I'm going to show you guys where I think that he might be a little too gracious with Avowed. The game currently right now, and I'll even refresh it just to give you guys the pure picture of this, right? Less than 12,000 people playing it as of right now. The numbers are massively dipping as we're going into the wee hours here on a Tuesday night. So you can see where it says peak concurrent 24-hour peak was 17,171. That's not terrible. If I had 17,000 people playing my game, I think I'd be over the moon, right? But remember, this is a AAA game that likely cost over $100 million to produce. I think it's like 5 years to make these games on average, right? Give or take a few years here or there. The thing is, this game just released today. The game was in early access for 5 days before today. Do you know how the peak was at early access? 13,318. That means that since the game went full release for people who did not pay $100 to play early access, they have only added around 4,000 people playing this game on Steam. Now, yes, I know the game is on Game Pass as well, but Steam is like where 70% of people buy their PC games. So people playing it on Game Pass aren't buying the game. They're playing it on Game Pass, sure, but they didn't pay for it. Obsidian's not making money hand over fist by copies that are being played on Game Pass. Steam is where they're going to make most of their money. So the fact that they've only added about 4,000 players since the game was in early access is pretty terrible, to be honest. And of course, Pirate Nation shows SKYRIM was made 14 years ago and yet has a current player count higher than Avowed. Not good, especially given the fact that Avowed definitely feels like a Skyrim light kind of counterpart. Madam Savvy says, you know what's sad too? Just compare the fire physics between them, compare the magic particles, the thought of how arrows interact. Games today are not crafted the way they once were. I would argue if you actually look at people playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 on high graphic settings, the torches and the flames and the embers are fantastic, very detailed. But again, she does have a point. We have a bunch of individuals working who have no idea what they're doing, focusing on the wrong thing. And if you look at LinkedIn, a cesspool of toxic positivity until you wrong think, they say to ignore the real gamers. People who have never shipped a game and who have minimal experience trying to say just ignore gamers. These people work in an industry and don't want to listen, they just want to tell and compel. And all this happens from greedy upper management eager for easy money from investors instead of creating a beautiful product. Then again, if you end up successful enough, the machine always comes. Epic comes to mind with that sentiment. This is a tragic waste of time for major companies to be spending money on, but the people who once made decent things at Obsidian aren't there anymore and people are catching on. The advertisement for the game should have had more people into it, but even in a controlled setting, they couldn't make it appealing. There just were patterns that were there people picked up on and took no interest. I really thought the name and the studio alone would have pulled more than this. We don't know Game Pass data, though, but it doesn't matter. If I'm being honest, it does not matter what the Game Pass data is because those are not game sales. Game Pass does not equal sales. Sure, it's Xbox makes a certain amount of money off Game Pass, but they've lost more money than they've made, and those studios that get paid to lease their games on Game Pass aren't making as much as they would selling the game directly to their customers. So I really don't think at the end of the day, the Game Pass numbers even matter, because if you just look at the Steam numbers and you go, they've only added 4,000 people playing the game since it went into full release from early access. That is shockingly bad. And again, maybe people just looked at it and like a lot of us and said, all the controversy aside, Matt Hansen and again, the game director and all the bad press coming out about the game, all the controversy aside, the game just looked mid. That's it. And I'm not paying $70 for mid. I'll go play something else for far less money. That being said, guys, let me know what you think about all this and I will catch you guys on the next one.